I'm Ryan Durbin from RD Ceramics, and I'm located in Southgate, Kentucky.
And I'm Becca Otis from Five Lines Pottery in Monroe, Washington. And welcome to Wheel Talk.
Hey folks, thanks for listening to Wheel Talk. We would love some more interaction with you all throughout this future episodes, and we would love to hear some listener questions. They may get on the episode.
Yeah, just submit them to wheeltalkpodcast@gmail.com, or you can submit them on our Instagram at wheeltalkpodcast. Thanks.
But every time like it rains or there's wind or a squirrel farts or something, the internet goes out here. It's horrible.
Did you see the typo in your text you sent me? It says Mercury is not in Gatorade right now.
Oh, yeah, that was on purpose.
I was like, is that a new news story that there's Mercury in Gatorade or something?
Yeah, that's what I was telling people the last time Mercury was in retrograde. Fucking Mercury and Gatorade.
I've been watching Fringe. That's been my thing this week.
I love Fringe. That's so funny. I started watching it again on Sunday.
Really? That's when I started watching it. See, Mercury is in Gatorade. And I've been like totally into it. I love science stuff, so.
Yeah, same.
What is Fringe? I don't know what that is.
Oh, Fringe is a show on Prime. It's on Prime, right? IMDb
TV.
TV.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's a show about fringe science and about a professor that gets sent to the loony bin, but then they take him out. And it's basically about all of these things that he created like 30 years ago that he forgot and now is trying to fix.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of it's based on like the first season, a lot of it's based on conspiracy theory stuff that supposedly he created, and the world denies, but it's real.
Oh, so it's like
there's a lot of
recreations of science things.
Kind
Or
of.
it's all
And there's like
fiction?
alternate realities and like aliens and
It's like sci-fi for the not sci-fi people.
Yes, it's sci-fi for the scientific.
Yes.
Interesting.
I'm not a Trekkie, but I love it.
I do too. I do too. Anyway, hello.
So how are you guys faring?
Well, we're here.
We recorded a short podcast right before this. We got a little name drop in there when we were talking about mailing lists.
She's gone. Come back!
She's stuck.
Maybe Rebecca's cursed.
I hate technology. Normally I did it.
There you are.
Okay, there you are.
There
You're
we
moving
go.
again.
We're back.
Okay, if I put the phone lower, no. If I put the phone up, yes.
Well, we don't need
I'm just gonna
to see you, so
keep
whatever
it
is
here.
more comfortable. Hello.
Hi.
Happy Wednesday. Whatever it is.
That was very serious radio of you.
We keep losing our days of the week. We're just like, I don't know about you, but last month felt like the longest month in history.
No, it went way too fast for me.
Really?
I'm way too busy. Yeah. I'm
Way
busier
too-
than normal.
Yeah. Rebecca's like a phenomenon. An anti-phenomenon.
Well, I feel like you're always
Yeah.
finding a way to like collaborate or do something new
Yeah.
to get yourself out of a funk. If you're like, if something hits you, you're like, okay, let's try this new thing or that new thing or.
Yeah. Okay, it's time that I had 16 months ago and finally make it reality.
Yeah. Hey, you should probably tell people who you are.
Yeah. So I guess what's your
Oh, are we
name?
starting?
What's your business? Where are you located? All that good stuff.
All that good stuff. Hey there.
Yeah.
I'm Rebecca Prowse of Gravesco Pottery, and I am in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Cool. Where did the Rebecca Gravesco Pottery is it Gravesco Pottery now, not Rebecca Graves, or how did Graves?
Yeah,
is that
it's
your
Gravesco Pottery now. When we moved to Indianapolis a couple of years ago, I changed it and rebranded everything because Graves is my maiden name. So originally it was Rebecca Graves Pottery, but I got Gravesco on Instagram as my username, so I used that on all of the platforms, and then people just started calling me Gravesco. So when we moved here, I'm like, screw it, I'm just going to rebrand it. That's the name of my company now.
That's an easy brand.
Instagram
and
drove that.
Also, that's kind of like a, usually people are like, oh, I should put my name in a business, and then you're kind of like I shouldn't have done that, but I did that, but now it's great because it worked out situation. Yeah. Because
it worked out totally fine.
Got married, so your name is not Rebecca Graves.
Right, absolutely. And I also realized, like, one of the reasons I wanted to rebrand it, and I was going to be Graves and Company, knowing that I'd have other people working for me, but whatever, Gravesco stuck. But one of the reasons I didn't want it to be my name is because I want to be able to trademark it.
Right, exactly.
And you can't trademark your name, so.
I didn't know that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. See, I'm smart. You're not, Ryan.
Wait, you said you did know that?
No, I didn't know that, but I'm still smart.
I was going to say, neither of us do that, but you come out smart in that. That's amazing.
That's because she has the snazzy orange glasses.
That's right.
Okay.
So, what are we... Okay, so...
so Indianapolis, Indiana, what's your studio like? You said there's other people that work for you, right?
Yeah, I have a 4,700 square foot studio, and there's 8 people besides myself working here. And then we also have a little bit of studio space rented out to Krista Bermeo Glass. She's a lampwork glass artist. And a couple of the potters who do production for me also have their studios in this space.
Nice. And you recently upgraded to that space from a different studio that was how big?
Yeah, we just upgraded last August. I was in a 700 square foot space, which felt huge to me when we moved into it 2.5 years ago. And then we expanded to 1,000 square feet a year ago and outgrew that pretty fast. And now we're in
4,700?
Yeah.
Jeez, that's nuts. I see Becca's 3,000 square foot studio and I'm like, man, that's huge. And then like you have 8 people besides yourself working in there on a very frequent basis. Would you say daily or 5 days a week?
Well, not right now, but.
Well, not right now, but on a typical week.
Yeah, on a typical week, there will usually be 2 days a week that everyone is here. And then the rest of the time, we usually average 4 to 5 people.
Okay.
4 to 5, not 45.
4 to 5. 4 2 3 4 5.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly like that. Becca teaches counting.
Yes.
She's a smart one.
I'll have you say you're smart now. Becca, were you gonna say something about your 3,000 square foot? Does yours feel comparable to hers?
Bigger than yours. Like, and I'm not saying that to be like, oh, my space is bigger. Like, I wish mine was smaller. But, like, when I walk into my space, it just feels like it's bigger than yours. But you have, yours is squattier.
This is like a huge square. Yours is like a long rectangle.
Mine's a rectangle.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
And yours is all open. We've got ours partitioned off.
So true.
Into a bunch of different spaces.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting. Well, for those of you that don't know, Rebecca's a badass, and she does. She's like, and we are both named Becca, and we both wear bright colored glasses, which is weird.
Yeah, we need to share that photo on the podcast Instagram of the group when we were together in Indianapolis. All the glasses and the hand sanitizer, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, she's gone right now, so I'm going to talk until she comes back. But she does wholesale and she actually mostly does wholesale, and she does selling to I guess it's like kind of like drop selling. She sells exclusively for a company on Instagram that's mostly on Instagram, and she's a food blogger. So where are you? Come back.
Maybe can you talk about your recent visit to her studio?
Yes.
While we're waiting for her to reconnect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tired. I kind of feel like I'm ordering food at a McDonald's drive-through right now. It keeps cutting out.
Well, maybe you should just try to do it with the voice and not the
just audio.
video.
Yeah. Yeah. I just turned the video off to see if that helps.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll keep ours on. Okay, I was just saying that you do wholesale mostly, and you also exclusively sell to somebody off that mostly has most of their people on Instagram.
Right. Yeah. The majority of my product line is private label for another company. And then the balance of it is almost all wholesale until, the world broke because of coronavirus. And that's kind of shifting. That's private label and wholesale.
What does it mean to be private label? Does that mean your Gravesco stamp is not on the product and you just sell to them and they can sell it for whatever they want and however they want to brand it and everything? Or
Yep, absolutely. So what we end up doing on the bottom of the pots that we do for this brand is their brand stamp. And then I have a small X that's a maker's mark that will go on there, but my actual full branding isn't on there. Nobody actually knows who I am when they buy that pottery.
Basically. Yep.
Do they still brand it as, hey, this is handmade by someone in Indiana or something like that?
Yep. They still brand it as handmade. I've been on a couple of Facebook Lives and that sort of thing with them where they've shown the process and that sort of thing. It's just not my brand name on there. And that's actually really cool for me. It gives me an opportunity to explore some shapes and some designs and stuff that aren't necessarily what I would put in my product line with my aesthetic. So I get to explore some things outside of my normal realm, or ideas that I had that didn't necessarily fit in with my stuff might fit in with theirs. So it gives me a little bit of extra flexibility with design, which is nice.
Plus, it seems like you're able to always have work to make certain products that they're always going to sell well.
Oh, absolutely. I don't have to do any of the marketing on it, which is spectacular because that gives me more time to make things.
And the things that you're selling are to mainly a food blogger that has a certain product that markets well and very unique to their customer base.
Yep, absolutely. And a lot of it is specifically designed around their recipes.
Yeah. That's interesting. What were we going to talk about? We were going to talk about costs. Were we going to talk about costs?
Pricing, wholesale costs.
Where do you want to start?
I'm curious how did you I had a question about wholesale that was if you're how would you compare your first wholesale order to one you may have finished in the last month? When did you start wholesale?
Oh, that's a good question. I started wholesale about 8 years ago. I have always, because I have a background in corporate retail, I have always priced my products to sell at wholesale. And then I mark up from there to retail. I've never been in that position of, oh no, I can't sell this wholesale because I can't mark it down that far. So I've been selling wholesale for quite a long time, not as intentionally as I have been the last few years, but probably one of my first big wholesale orders that's memorable was to Uncommon Goods. And that was an absolute nightmare of a process. They were horrible to work with. And I learned
I'm not familiar with that brand. Is that like a boutique shop that sells handmade?
It's a catalog brand. It's a catalog, and they sell more. It's not even necessarily all handmade. Handmade, I think, is like maybe a quarter of what they sell, but it's just kind of unusual gift ideas. It's Uncommon Goods. They're online. They're online. They had a lot of restrictions and expectations of wholesale orders that from that first one, I learned a lot about what I don't want to do as a wholesale
funny.
provider.
And how'd you initially get connected with them? Did they find you online somewhere or see you at a show or?
They saw me at a show. I did 2 wholesale shows at the very beginning of my wholesale career. It was probably I'm pretty sure that I met them at the Philadelphia wholesale show in January, and then they actually placed an order with me a couple months later when I went to the show in New Jersey. And then I worked with them for about a year and realized that I would rather do private label or custom logo work based on my own designs than working with a company to come up with something totally custom to them, because like they didn't want the same things I was selling to other people. It had to be customized. It had to be like, there were all these special little things that they wanted with it. So I learned from that I didn't want to do that.
So it's kind of like, hey, we want something pottery related. We know a person who makes stuff in clay. Let's use their expertise to figure out if they can do every single thing that we want.
Right. Every single thing we want. And we don't understand clay at all. So we have unrealistic expectations. Some people work with them and have really great experiences. The particular buyer that I worked with was not there for very long and was not a great experience. But it was good for me because it helped me outline a lot of boundaries. And like every bad wholesale experience that I've had or custom order experience hasn't been entirely bad, because it allows me to go, okay, I'm not going to do that again.
True that.
And next time I'm going to do this, and this differently. So it's always a learning experience. And from that point to now is completely different, because now I'm not saying, sure, I'll sell wholesale. What do you want? I'm saying, sure, I'll sell wholesale. Here are the 11 items that I sell wholesale and the 3 glaze options you can choose.
So that's great. But you were already going to a wholesale show. How did you get to the point where you were like, okay, I'm confident to go to a wholesale show?
I pretty much had already planned that from the beginning. And it wasn't even so much confidence about going to the wholesale show as it was having an intentional product line that all made sense together.
Okay.
So knowing that I was going to go to a wholesale show, I designed like 30 products that could mix and match and go well together. And I knew that it would be a good booth presentation. And that's what I took.
And you were or were not selling retail before that?
Yeah, I had been selling retail for a couple of years before that, doing art fairs primarily, and a couple of galleries that I was in on consignment.
Okay. And then you got some consistency, and you kind of were confident in the selection of 11 or so things that you were offering for wholesale.
Yep. Okay. Absolutely. And from the beginning, like when I decided to become a potter and having several friends as potters, I never wanted the art fair to be my business model. But I also knew that I didn't want retail to be my business model as well, because I had already worked 20 plus years in corporate retail. I had my own gallery for a short amount of time. And I don't like being around people that much. I'm way too introverted. So from the beginning, my goal has always been wholesale. I wanted to be able to sleep in my own bed. I wanted to be able to work in the studio and make things instead of spending so much time selling. And I wanted to have less contact, honestly, with humans.
Ain't that the life?
So how would that negative wholesale experience compare with one that you maybe have delivered in the last month?
Oh, completely different animal, because I went from that one where they were in charge of what I was doing to I make an offering and they choose from my offerings now. So I actually enjoy making the product. It's a lot less stressful, and I'm able to fill orders much more efficiently because it's not trying to reinvent the wheel for every order.
Yeah.
So you get a wholesale order, and then you or your staff figure out how to divvy up that task, and then tell them a deadline of when you plan to deliver it and stuff like that.
Yep, absolutely. Primarily selling through Fair right now for wholesale. They've been really great to work with because they extend it's like a net 30, 60, or 90 to the customers, but I get paid as soon as I ship the order. So they're absorbing that risk of the net payment. And also, if there are any returns, they accept the returns and they resell them. They don't ever like hit me for a return.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
So once
that's
it's
nice.
sold, it's sold.
And you
I'm
said
not going to
that's
get it back. So I really
that's
enjoyed that.
Fair, Faire. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
It's impossible
that's
to get
fair.
into.
I feel like I
It's
heard
really
of that.
hard. But if you have a gallery that or a shop that already carries your work, they can request you on Fair, and then you'll get a call and they'll ask you to join.
Right.
Oh, so the gallery kind of gives you some legitimacy.
Yep. If they know that
Okay.
somebody wants to order from you, they'll add you in. So then if I bring somebody to Fair to order, I don't have to pay commission on that. That first person who requests me, Fair gives them a credit to use to shop in my store. So on top of me getting into Fair, they just got some free stuff, but I get paid for it. So there's a bunch of really cool incentives working with them.
Cool.
It's like what Etsy Wholesale was supposed to be.
And then I'm also that people can order from. So it's not just all over the place. Here, I made these things. Do you want to buy something? It's here's my product line, and it's easy for us to continually produce.
Yeah, that's cool.
Does that product line shift over time? Is it like adding items and changing glazes over time? Is that kind of how you're adjusting and keeping it fresh?
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. So I'm like every week or so I'll add a new glaze color and eliminate one. So right now I'm selling out of all of my red glaze. I just have a few things left, and out of the turquoise. And the new product line is going to be a tan clay with either satin black, white, or satin pink, which is completely different than what I've done before.
Okay.
And then I'll still carry the core product line in black and white.
Cool. How long did you say you got new? I think I missed the timeline. How often do you say you get new glazes in, or you change the glaze?
About once a quarter, sometimes less.
Once a quarter. Okay. Cool. And then, because I mean, you from your body of work now, you've got a lot of the brown bear, the dark clay, and then you're starting to introduce more of that tan clay.
Yeah, because dark clay sucks.
Yeah, dark clay's got its own set of particular challenges.
Like
it looks beautiful when it's done, but is it more the firing and the materials in it that make it finicky, and the way it treats the glazes and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's primarily the way it treats the glazes, which if I were doing shows or had retail space and people were coming in and choosing would not be an issue at all. Like the things that I love about the glaze and the clay and how it reacts with glaze are sometimes the bane of my existence, because that kind of juiciness and that inconsistency because of the body being 20% iron, people aren't getting what they're expecting all the time. And that gets to be a little bit of a challenge. So right now we go through about a ton of the brown bear clay every 4 to 5 weeks. And
wow.
We'll probably continue going through a ton of that about every 6 weeks, and then switching some of the products over to the tan, which is less finicky. We'll go through a ton of that every 6 to 8 weeks.
Nice. Becca, was that the first time that you used dark clay a lot when you were in her studio recently?
Yeah, and it was enough.
I mean, honestly, for me, the biggest thing about the dark clay is I always look like I've been working on a car, because I've always got iron embedded in my skin. My hands are never clean.
I don't know if I really understood my issue with cleanliness until I threw 500 pieces in dark clay. So that was an issue.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved working with it. It was wonderful clay to throw, but my hands were always dirty, and it was not okay with me.
Yeah.
I was not okay with it.
I know when you showed up and you had your fingernails painted, I was like, "Aw, that's gonna look horrible."
And I think I had him because I have to get my fingernails done so that I can throw. I use them as ribs.
Right.
And so I'm like, well, might as well paint them anyway. But yeah, yeah, definitely not a fan of the dark clay. I love the way it looks.
Yep. I love throwing with it, and I love the way it looks. I'm just after, I think, almost 2.5 years of only using that. It's time to branch out.
Yeah.
Plus, the new pink glaze. Wow. Yeah, the new pink glaze looks so sexy on the tan glaze or tan clay. And I'm not even a pink person, but I want all the pink things right now.
Yeah. It's kind of like a rose-ish or something like that. Is that or like yeah. Yeah, it's nice. And you use all Kentucky Mudworks clay, right?
Yeah, I do. I really love Kentucky Mudworks. Link's been fantastic to work with. But I also love the idea that it's a female-owned company. And I like that her primary goal with her clay is supplying studio potters, not supplying schools. So she's paying a lot of attention to consistency and quality, where I think some of the other brands are more about quantity.
Yeah.
I like how at least all the ones that I see when they're labeled mid-range, they're 5 to 7. They're not 6 to 10. Because that's pretty deceiving.
Yep.
Mine are 4 to 6. My clays.
Nice.
Yeah. And we're firing everything. All of what we have, I think, is, oh Lord, what is it? Is it 4 to 7? I think it's 4 to 7. We're firing at cone 5. Oh, Brown Bear's 5 to 7.
5 to 7.
Yeah, and the Big Turtle is 5 to 7.
Nice.
Yeah. I definitely liked throwing with the dark clay as opposed to the tan clay.
Yeah, you felt like the tan clay was groggy.
Yeah, but it's understandable because I'm used to like porcelain, so. But I mean, I wouldn't mind a speckle here and there. I wouldn't mind that. So I want to know about your pricing. Like, let's talk about how you price your items and how you figure out pricing for items, and then how you figure out your retail off of your wholesale.
Okay. It's kind of convoluted and not always completely consistent. Like there's a lot of people who have a specific formula that they use, and mine is more of a process than it is a formula. So I know exactly how much clay is being used. Like my mug is 1.25 pounds of clay, and I know that I'm paying 54 cents a pound with shipping for the clay. And I know that I've got about 60 cents in glaze. So like I'll figure out the actual physical cost of things. Then I will guesstimate how many I can fit into a kiln for a bisque firing and how many I can fit into a kiln for a glaze firing if that was the only thing going in. And figure out the actual firing price per piece, because I know how much a glaze firing costs and how much a bisque firing costs. So if it's like $15 for a glaze firing divided by X amount of pieces, it costs this much per piece. So
when you're checking to see how many can fit in the kiln, if I would assume you probably don't have, I mean, you probably would quantity wise to have enough to fill in one kiln of mugs, but for somebody that's out there, would you just load a shelf of mugs and say, I can fit 4 shelves in this kiln and there are 15 on a shelf or something like that?
Yep. Because I haven't found another way that's really consistent for figuring out firing price other than if I were to fill a whole kiln of the same thing, what would it cost per piece?
Right.
So that's kind of where I start with every single item, with figuring out what the actual cost is. Because once I know what the actual cost is, then I can start working on the time. So most of the work that I do, like I'll design or I'll design it with one of the other potters that are working here, and then they're getting paid a piece rate for making it. So I need to make sure how many we can make in an hour or how many we can make in an 8-hour day, so that we can figure out how many minutes it takes to make each one, so that I can make sure I'm paying them an appropriate price or paying myself an appropriate price. So let's say, for example, it's a mug. My mug, I can throw 25 in an hour, and let's say I can throw 20 in an hour because the math is easier. Yes. So that's 3 minutes a piece. And then let's say I can trim 20 in an hour, because generally trimming takes the same amount of time as throwing for me. So now we're at 6 minutes. The handle extruding the pieces is probably going to be about 2 minutes per handle, and then attaching it is probably going to be about 2 minutes. So now we're at
10
minutes per mug. I usually work at a rate of $40 an hour for the production potters. So that's $4 per mug is what I'm paying actual cost for somebody to make it.
$4 per mug until it gets set on a cart as greenware.
Yep.
To be loaded into account or something. Okay.
Yep. So then I know, my actual cost, my firing cost, the amount of time up to the point that it's drying on the shelf. Then we figure out, we've got maybe another 8 to 10 minutes into the entire process of that one mug being handled to be put into the bisque kiln, taken out of the bisque kiln, waxed, glazed, into the glaze kiln, out of the glaze kiln, bottoms buffed if they need it. So we're at about 20 minutes of hands-on time per mug at $40 per hour. That's generally what my wholesale price would be.
20 minutes per mug.
Mm-hmm.
So that's your base cost of materials and labor. Okay.
Yep.
So what is that? A third of 60? So is that right? So $20? Is that what you said? 20 minutes for
a third of 40.
A third of 40. I'm sorry. Okay.
So right around 12.
Okay, so $12 is your cost just to get it out the door, and then you wholesale that for what?
So what I am doing now is
it's $13.20, by the way. $13.20. She went away.
So $13.20 was a third of 40, and then from there, is that what you're saying, Becca? Okay, we'll get her back.
No.
Some clients that are 16. Did you lose me?
Yeah,
we lost you for a second.
Okay, we're at $13.20 per mug. And then
so it's cost is about $12 a mug. I usually wholesale them for $16 a mug. That gives us a little bit of wiggle room. And also a little bit of profit margin built in, and a little bit of space in case something's completely foobarred with the kiln, or glaze goes wrong, or power goes out mid-firing, whatever random wacky things happen when you have a deadline in pottery.
Right.
So 16 a mug, and then...
Is the shipping part of that 16 too, or do you add that on top after you get the whole order done?
Usually, yeah, that would be part of that 16. So if my actual cost, time and labor is 12, in that extra $4 would be the box, the time it takes to pack it, those little pieces of labor, so that we're not eating that labor completely. But that's also a little bit more challenging to guesstimate going in, because it depends on how it's getting packed. Like if we're individually packing and drop shipping direct to a customer versus somebody's coming to pick it up versus we're shipping it all in one big box or on a pallet, it's going to be very different. So we've just got padding built in for that. Kind of worst case scenario pricing for that.
So if all that's part of it, then there may be less profit margin in there based on how much you have to pack and stuff.
Excuse me. Yeah, the $4 margin is definitely a gross profit margin, not a net profit margin, because there will still be some cost in there for that piece of it. And then this also, by marking it up to 16, allows me to cover the cost of, like with fair wholesale, they take 15%. So that allows me to have the wiggle room for that fee. Or if I want to play a little bit and somebody's like, well, if I order 100 mugs, can I have them for 15? I can kind of look at it and see if that's something that's doable. And it gives me a little bit of wiggle room there as well.
Yeah. So how much are you charging whole retail for those?
So retail for those, I usually go 2.25 to 2.5 times my wholesale price. So if you buy the mug on my website, it's $36.
Okay. $36.
Is that difference? Because normally you'd say like wholesale is 2 times or wholesale is half.
Yeah, wholesale is not 2 times. Because what ends up happening, like that's a misnomer. It's based on the old Keystone pricing of 50% discount, but that doesn't take into account the shipping cost. So when somebody buys, $100 item at wholesale or $100 worth of stuff at wholesale plus $25 shipping, they're marking it up with the shipping price and doubling it. So if I say wholesale is 16, retail is 2.5 times that will account for that shipping cost that's in there that the retailer is going to be paying when they buy from me.
So like when you ship something to somebody, they pay
at retail? At retail, or are you talking about wholesale, Becca?
Both. For wholesale, the wholesale client pays for the shipping on top of the cost of the goods.
Okay.
I'm working into the price, the cost of boxes and packing material and the time for packing it, but I'm not working in the cost of actual shipping. They have to pay for that.
Okay.
So that's why wholesale markup is usually 2.25 to 2.5 times.
Yeah.
Because when they get it, they're adding shipping in.
Right. Yeah. Because like if somebody was picking it up at your shop, like let's say every single client you had just came and picked it up at your shop. You didn't have to do anything. Yep. You didn't even have to wrap them. You wouldn't have to add in that 0.25 or
right.
Like
they might double it.
Yeah, you might double it. But if you're gonna have to do anything, like if you're gonna have to pack up all that crap, then you want to make sure that you add that in. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because I think that's one of the biggest misses that as potters we make when we're pricing things is the amount of time it takes to pack things to send them somewhere.
So freaking long.
It takes longer to pack a box than it does to make a pot.
It does.
And how much do we discount some of those tasks that go into getting a pot to its destination? Absolutely. That we don't even account for? Like, I mean, there's so many things that go into the like prepping clay. Oh, I don't even count the cost to wedge the clay because I haven't started yet. But it's like, how much time does that take?
I feel like that's the most that like if I counted in prepping clay, my mugs would be $100.
That's because you hate prepping clay so much. See, and prepping clay is part of those minutes that I'm tallying up into the original price when I'm figuring out the wholesale price.
Yeah.
So do you have a big spreadsheet of every single item and then the pounds and the time across that timeline?
It's not a formal spreadsheet, but it's all written down,
Yeah. And I'm sure there's some items that you have the same mug body or something and it doesn't have a handle, or there's something that's a little bit different, so you just say, okay, let's remove the handle part of that and this is how much it's going to cost.
Right. Absolutely. I have a bowl that's the same amount of time and effort, but it doesn't have the handle, but we spend more time trimming it, so the wholesale price is the same. It's the same amount of clay. So I don't have like an individual breakdown for every item. Generally, if it's 1.25 pounds of clay, they're all going to be about the same wholesale price.
Yeah. What about hand building as opposed to throwing?
I figure it out exactly the same way. We'll make a slew of them and figure out like how many can you make in an hour and break it down that way.
Yeah.
Does total drying time factor in at all? As in, like, I can turn around hand built things quicker than wheel thrown things because maybe there's less moisture included, so it might be cheaper, or is drying time at all factor for you?
When we analyzed the hand thrown work versus the hand built work, the amount of time it takes to hand build something might be less, but then there's somewhere down the line it ends up equaling out. So
not
really,
a plate. I'm kidding.
But then you have to figure in the amount of space it takes in the kiln and your failure rate. I know. So yeah, every single thing that I price starts out with the how many can I make in an hour?
Yeah.
And we price it from there. And then there are some items that it's just like, once I come up with my price, I'll look at what's available online. And if I'm way underpriced, yay me, I'm going to get a bigger profit margin and I'm going to mark it up.
Right.
Like, what will the market bear is definitely part of it. That also kind of helps me determine what not to make, because it's like, this was a really great idea. This is lovely, but I'm going to end up having to sell it for 4 times what everyone else does because of the process and how long it takes. So we're just not going to do that. I'll take this one home and enjoy it.
Interesting.
I do that a lot, I feel like. What just happened?
So with a new piece that you bring into your line and you think about, are you testing all that stuff to just figure out, maybe I'll make a batch of 50 of them and see if I can sell them for what I think I need to sell them for. And then if the market can't bear it, if I can't sell enough and they sit too long, then I just kind of
then that was a fun
get
run.
rid of it. Yeah.
Just let it fade quietly into the dark night. Yeah, absolutely.
Have you ever sold something to a customer and been like, please don't take a picture of this? I do that all the time. I'm like,
I used to do it a lot more when I had more retail, when I was doing shows. Like, there were some shows, especially indie handmade shows, where I would take seconds, because I would always do like this $15 section or the $20 section or whatever, and somebody'd be so excited. I'm like, please don't ever tell anyone I made that.
I gotta tell you, I made a mug for one of my friends, and it was a Trump mug, and I'm not a Trump fan. I'm pretty neutral. But I made it for him, and I purposefully didn't sign it.
Yes.
And and he's like, will you make more of those? I'm like, absolutely not. No. And I was like, and I didn't sign it, so nobody really knows who made that. So
you should be like, you should appreciate that I made you this one.
Right. It's like, this is how much I love
very
you.
Lucky.
Like, I don't make anything political, so it would have been the same the other way around. But it was. But I tell people not to take pictures of things all the time.
Yeah. It definitely used to be more often than it is now, because most of what I'm making now is made to order. So I don't have as much playtime as I used to. So every once in a while I'll be like, I wonder what happens if I do this with the glaze, and then it comes out of the kiln. I'm like, oh, that was a mess up.
That was bad.
Yeah.
That was a dumb idea.
So do you still have time to play and stuff? Or are you so busy that it's hard to go away from the routine and the normal and the orders?
Right.
I mean, it sounds like a good problem to have, but
it's a good and bad problem. During fourth quarter, so like October, November, December, I don't have any time to play. So of course that's when I do all of my playing, because I'm a procrastinator.
Me too. I do the same thing.
I have $20,000 in orders. I should play with this new mug idea.
I'm doing that right now.
I should do this thing instead. So I have learned that during the busier times when I don't have time to play, I have to make an hour or 2 a week to just make whatever the hell I want. So last year during the holidays, I made some big serving bowls that I will probably never make again, but they were really fun, and it was just something that I needed to do in the midst of the repetition. So I've definitely learned that I have to make time to play. And then one of the cool things that I did this year with Fair, I think it's cool. I started offering a set of 12 mugs for wholesale. And they're artist choice mugs. You don't get to pick. You can pick the glaze color, and that's it. And then I just sit and I make a dozen mugs however the heck I want to.
That's sweet.
And it's fun.
That sounds like Becca's mystery box thing.
I was just going to say that's kind of like a mystery box. I know somebody kept asking. They're like, can you make more of those? And I'm like, well, maybe I guess I should just have that be a thing.
Yeah, maybe that's what'll make you like throwing again.
No, I don't know.
There you go.
Becca's admitted she's in a throwing fast right now.
But I'm not in a clay. But I'd like to be specific. I'm not in a clay fast. I'm in a throwing fast.
Yeah.
I've been hand building significantly. Oh, she left.
She left. Oh
Is she
no.
coming back?
I hope so.
Can we ask her to come back? Oh shit! No.
Add.
I got it. Add.
Hello?
Are you there?
She's
Sorry,
back.
I lost you.
Yeah, you left and we're like, no. And then at the top it was like, if you add this person, it'll stop your current call. And I'm recording it. So I'm like, no, we can't do that.
Sorry about
okay.
that.
I'm not in a clay fast. I'm in a throwing fast. I have been hand building, but I am not throwing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I've done that. It's really satisfying.
Yeah, I am throwing because I have to throw for some orders, but I'm throwing as little as possible, if that makes any sense.
How's it feel?
It feels like I'm breaking a rule.
Like you're known for throwing, so you have to throw, or else you're letting somebody down.
Or is it because it's so fun it shouldn't be allowed?
No, it's not that.
Is there pressure of like, if I'm hand building, I'm making something that I'm not, like, I don't guarantee that I'm going to sell?
No.
I don't know. Do you feel like you're to a point where if you wheel throw certain items that you know they can sell, they're gonna sell?
Yeah, I mean like mugs and wine glasses and stuff. But I don't know. I think that I just I don't know. There's something that happened in the last couple of months that just like it was like I think I need to take some time. And I was talking to Heidi about it yesterday, and I was like, I just feel like if honestly where I'm at right now, if I could have my entire line this whole year be hand built, I'd be down for it.
Go for it. Why not?
And she was like, and I was like, but I don't know if I can do that. And she's like, fuck them. You can do whatever the fuck you want.
Yes, exactly. I tell you what, I used to like worry so much about what I could sell. And when I quit worrying about it, just made whatever the hell I wanted. My business took off.
Yeah, I know. And I don't know why. I think that maybe I'm really enjoying hand building right now because we did redo the entire studio. Mm-hmm. And so the setup is so ideal for hand building.
Yeah.
And so it's like exciting. And also I've been making the molds. And so it's a challenge for me. Throwing is not a challenge for me. It's not a challenge at all. It's just something that I do on a daily basis. And that's great. But hand building, the act of hand building isn't challenging, but the act of making new items that I'm satisfied with is challenging.
Yeah. The engineering and the figuring out the process I love.
Yeah, because I'm a problem solver. I like puzzles.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And we all three of us know this.
Yes. And the customer base that you could get from hand-built stuff could be a brand new customer base that you weren't reaching with your wheel thrown stuff, but it also could be your wheel thrown customers really like your new work because they want to support you and they're like, that's different. I want some of that because I haven't seen that before.
Well, and you know, if you have a customer that doesn't know the difference, then they could care less.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because like I've had 3 people be like, hey, can you make me plates? And I'm like, do they have to be thrown on the wheel? And they're like, can they just look nice?
They're like, what's thrown on the wheel?
I'm like, yeah, sure. So like before we came here, I made 14 plates in like no time.
Nice.
So
nice. I was really excited the trick that you showed us with the PVC pipe for making plates. Today I was making a positive for a mold and I couldn't find my PVC pipe. I just grabbed one of my wear boards and used the edge of that to smooth it out, and it worked out beautifully.
That's actually probably better, honestly.
It was great.
Huh. I wonder if like a 2x4 that's rounded a little bit would work really well.
Probably.
Huh.
Because it could actually hold a little moisture, kind of like a rib.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Huh.
Problem solving.
Problem solving. That's what we do.
We go from talking about wholesale and pricing to 2x4s.
Well, you know.
I have a question about, so you've got 8 people in there besides yourself. You got, like you said earlier, you're in Q4, you got a $20,000 order coming up. How the hell do you manage all this stuff? You know, you're the project manager of this studio now. You're the go-to person. How do you manage all that?
Tell them about the app.
So one of the ways that I manage it is I use Trello. Trello. It's a free app. Eventually, like if you use it for enough things with enough people, you have to pay for it. But I use it for free. It's like having an infinite amount of bulletin boards with expandable little windows. So we have one board for each person to track their pieces made and what I owe them at the end of each week. We have one board that is upcoming projects. We have one board that is custom orders. We have one board that is what gets done for the day. So every single day, everybody knows on the team when they get in, whether I'm here or not, they look at Trello and they see what needs to be done for the day.
So you keep this board updated. They keep the board updated as they work. And they don't have to check in with you at the beginning of every day because they already know.
They already know
what they need to do.
So when I fill out the Trello board for each day, each person has a color code and their tasks get color coded, and you can drag and drop the tasks into different orders. So I can arrange them in order of importance, or I can assign multiple people to a task, and whoever gets to it first gets to it. And then when they're done, they drag it off of the to-do board onto the done board.
Nice.
And I can, even if I'm not here, like we were up in Canada over the holidays, and I could look at Trello because it's cloud-based and see what was getting done.
Right.
And I knew that, 2 of the kilns had been unloaded and the glaze had been mixed, but I also knew that 2 of the orders that needed to go out hadn't gone out yet.
And also, her entire staff, except for one person, are introverted.
Yes.
Which I didn't realize how much of an advantage that was until I was working there, because I'm also introverted. And like just sitting there and everyone is doing their own stuff. Like nobody's talking. Nobody talks.
No. The only time there's talking going on is when Abby is here. She's our extrovert. So that's like the fun day is when Abby's in. Yeah. That's the day that everybody doesn't wear earbuds. The rest of the time, everybody has their own earbuds in. Mackenzie's probably watching a crime drama or listening to one. And Allie's listening to music, and Dusty's listening to his music, and Ryan's listening to a podcast. And we're just all kind of going about our business. It's really kind of great. But also, that was one of the things that I put in the ad when I said I was looking for people is, we are hardcore introverts here. And if you can't hang with that, don't apply. You'll feel like everybody hates you.
Right.
That's true.
We don't hate you. We just don't care to talk to you.
Yeah. And like, I've never been in such a wonderful environment. Like, I mean, it was wonderful for me, but, and I can talk with the best of them, I can get along with Abby just fine.
Yeah.
But it was just such a strange, and like, when you told me, so I was working there for 4 days before Rebecca told me about Trello, and I was like, are you fucking kidding me? This is genius.
You're like, how do these people know what they're doing? They just come in, they like telepathically communicate what they need to do, and they're like, all right, gotcha.
Exactly. Yeah. It was like, how do they already know?
And it's so nice because like Mackenzie manages the studio for me. She sees something that needs to be done that I missed. She'll just add it to the Trello board and assign it to somebody. I don't necessarily have to be the one doing it. So that's been really nice. Or like Allie won't get everything trimmed and she knows that the next day she's not going to be in. She'll put it on the next day's board and assign it to who's going to be there. So there's a lot of that stuff that ends up going on autopilot because of the app we use.
Nice. And, yeah, and that kind of answered another question. I was wondering how do you pay people and feel like you're keeping track of what people are doing? But if it's on the board, then it says trim 40 mugs or whatever, then at the end of the day they did mugs, they did X number of them.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
So for everybody that doesn't know, but Rebecca pays people by piece. most of the people by piece.
Mm-hmm.
She has a few hourly people, but the other people are paid per piece, which means that they get paid a rate of a piece that we already discussed, how she prices. But that means that they're contract employees. So they don't actually work for her as an employee. They work with her.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So a 1099 employee.
Is that every form is per piece, or does it depend on?
Yeah, every form is per piece. So I have a price list of what it costs, or what somebody will make for throwing a mug, what they will make for trimming a mug, what they will make for putting a handle on a mug, what they will make for glazing a mug.
Dang. That's pretty. So it's that granular. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's that granular. But it's also really cool because some of them are super efficient. So like Dusty, when he's throwing, he can sometimes make $40 or $50 an hour.
Yeah.
Because he's just that efficient.
Yeah.
But it also takes a lot of the pressure off because Ryan, who throws some of the larger items for me, prefers to spend more time on them. So he doesn't feel the pressure of you're getting paid by the hour. You have to do this at a certain speed. Right.
And they also control how much they're going to make. If you say that they can pick up certain tasks based on whoever gets to it first.
Correct.
Do you have certain skill sets where you're like, these tasks I want to assign to these specific people because I really like how these forms turn out when they work with them?
Yeah, absolutely. There's some specific forms that Ryan is just so good at. Nobody else even does them. Nobody bothers because he's just doing it so beautifully and so consistently. And then there are some forms that like Dusty can throw or I can throw. There are some things that only Allie trims because she's just got this feel for it. And there are some that Allie, Mackenzie, or Abby can trim. It doesn't matter who does it. So we've kind of all figured out whose strengths and weaknesses are going to work or not work and kind of go from there. And then we're also all pretty good about Allie really likes to do this. Let's leave this project for Allie. I really like to do this. I'm going to do this project right now. Or I know that Mackenzie hates doing this thing, so I'll get this done because I don't mind it. So it's kind of nice because everybody is aware of everyone else's strengths, weaknesses, and hatreds.
Yeah. And it seems like you could get people into the process. Like if you had to hire somebody new, then you could assign a task that's somewhat easy enough for somebody to pick up and go with, and feeling a sense of accomplishment because they moved that thing from to do to done.
Yes.
To do to don't. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And knowing how many pieces are made is kind of fun too. So like making these little tiny mise en place dishes that are a slab form are really simple. And that's usually where I'll start somebody out who's new in the studio because they can make 120 of them in an hour and they feel really good about what they got done.
Right. Until you throw them in the trash because they're crooked.
Because they have personality.
I'm kidding.
When you were getting started with actually having other people make, was it hard to give up control of the process?
Absolutely not. No, not at all. Mm-mm.
I know I asked you this before, but I wanted to ask because the listeners may be interested.
I feel you, Rebecca.
No, it's not at all. Most of the stuff that I do, I'm approaching from a design sensibility, not from I'm making art sensibility. Every once in a while, I might stumble across something that's art by accident, but that's more serendipity than anything. So I'm coming at it from the design standpoint of I need to not only design a thing that looks the way I want it to and functions the way that I want it to, but that I can also teach someone else how to do and use, develop the vocabulary for passing this project off. And before I was a potter, I was a regional director for a department store and had over 1,000 people that worked with me. So I would sometimes be running 32 stores in 5 different states, all of the merchandising in those stores, plus running a store remodel and doing a new store opening all at the same time. So for me, it's more important. Yeah, it's more important for me that my team feels like they're accomplishing things that they love doing and that the end result meets my aesthetic than it is that I personally do it. Like for the last 3 weeks, I haven't touched clay.
So would you say you love people managing?
I wouldn't say that I love people managing, but I do love leading a team.
Okay, that's
I feel like those are different things.
Yeah.
You like leading people to success.
Yeah,
absolutely. You don't necessarily want to manage everything that they do. Mm-hmm. You're not a micromanager by any means. No. But
just because somebody's totally seeing that you have a Trello board for all these tasks may come in and be intimidated and be like, oh man, I'm going to be so managed with every task that I'm doing. But there's a reason behind why you have it, whether it's getting paid or making sure that the studio is running when you're not physically there.
Right. Plus, anybody who comes in and is at all intimidated by me doesn't belong here.
That's true.
I mean, it's just that simple. Like, we're all pretty straightforward and bold on the team, even the quiet ones. So yeah, intimidation, if they can't make it through an interview with me without feeling intimidated by that, this is probably not the place for them.
When I was there, she wrote on the whiteboard because we couldn't find the water bottle.
Oh, the fucking spray bottle.
the fucking water bottle. We couldn't find the water bottle and something else happened and she wrote on the board, she goes, who? Oh, wait. What did you say?
It might still be up there.
It probably is. I think it was like, for the love of all that is holy, put your fucking stuff away.
Yeah, for the love of fuck. For the love of fuck, put shit away immediately. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. We have 4,700 square feet and 9 people. And if I can't find my tools, I'm going to murder someone. Just put shit away.
To the deepest part of my core on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I very, very briefly at the beginning of my pottery career, before I knew I wanted to be a potter, I went and worked at Michael Terra's studio for a week in Paducah, Kentucky's Terra Cottage Ceramics. And Michael is very particular and everything is in a very specific place for a very specific reason, which I love. Oh my gosh, that just gives me a lady boner every time. But I was working on a project and I laid a tool down and he came over and he has very piercing light blue eyes and he picked the tool up and he just stared at it until I paid attention to him. And then he stared at me and then he stared at the tool and then back at me, and while holding eye contact, slowly put it back in the container it belongs in and nods his head and walks away. No words were exchanged.
Scarred you for life.
That tool went back in that container every damn time I was done with it after that.
That's so funny.
I think sometimes I'm not scary enough when it comes to putting the shit away that needs to be put away.
I'm really terrible if I start finding things that just never get put away right. I hide them.
Oh.
I will take them out of the space that is commonly used and put them in my own stuff and be like, I don't know what you're talking about.
That's such
my biggest pet peeve right now is because I don't control my members, but they always use bats and then they never clean them. And then today I found 2 round bats that were fuzzy and I'm like, we've only had these bats for 2 years. What's going on? And I don't know why it was fuzzy. And I was just everything inside of me was just mad.
You just get curdled.
It's just 2 bats. I'm clean your fucking bats. Come on.
Are you an animal?
So you have a balance of the structure and the systems in place, as well as the trying to figure out where the hell something's at.
Yeah.
Do you feel like artists need more of the structure in their? Because I've kind of heard you talk about that structure helps rather than feeling like you're not as artistic if you're not free flowing. And
I think it completely depends on the person. I worked with a potter who, if I cleaned up his wheel, his month was shot. He couldn't make anything because he didn't have enough crust. For me, visual noise is distracting. Yeah. So if I see things that aren't put away, if I look up from the wheel and things are messy, I have a very difficult time focusing and working. because then I start this list in my head of what needs to be done. So I'm like sitting there throwing mugs going, those tools need to be put away. The water bottle needs to be put back where it goes. That plastic needs to be straightened up. That table needs to be cleaned. And that's running through my head instead of focusing on what I'm making or focusing on, what I'm designing next while I'm making this form over and over. So for me, it's just really distracting. I think other people work well in chaos. So it depends on the person. I don't think there's a cookie cutter answer to that one at all.
Does every person in your studio have their own workspace so you can block out the way that they maintain their workspace and what works for them versus you?
Well, we started out doing that. Or do you all see it
as a community studio, so you need to keep it presentable for the whole group?
Yeah, we started out doing that, and that didn't work for me because because I could see their stuff. So Ryan and Mackenzie have moved their personal studios into this new backspace. They can do whatever they want because I can't see it. When it was out in the main studio space, the rule was you clean up your space every single day and hit the reset button before you leave, or I'll murder you in the morning. Because I'll usually work until like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning because I get the most done after everybody leaves. And I'm sitting there working, going, I have to clean up after these people. This is what I pay them for. I pay them to take care of these things for me. And now I'm cleaning up after them instead of throwing things. So once we established everybody cleans up their workspace at the end of the day, set a timer for 15 minutes before you plan to leave. Even if your project's not done, it's more important that you clean up than it is that you finish the project. That has made a big difference.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but for some reason, when I told them that they could mop a section of the studio every day, it was like I gave them permission to mop. And now it's not out of control.
I got a new mop.
That's exciting. Did you get the spin mop?
I did. It's fucking awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah. And it cleans.
It didn't look like the mop would be heavy duty enough, but I guess
it's not. But I figure if we're gonna clean like sections at a time, it's fine enough.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like anybody's gonna clean 3,000 square feet all at once.
Right.
I certainly am not.
That's a heck of a workout.
Yes.
Yeah. The other fun thing I've done with the crew, I think it's fun. I'm not a morning person by any stretch of the imagination. And like with most people, I think they go to work and then they come home and they relax and they go to bed. I will work up until I go to bed.
Me too. And then you relax in the morning.
That's me.
I relax in the morning. So sometimes I don't get here until 11:30 or 12 o'clock, which is one of the reasons Trello works beautifully because they can just come in and get started. But everybody makes their own schedule.
Yeah, that's nice.
So I'll tell them, what we have coming up this week, or if you want to work this many hours based on what I know you could produce in that many hours, I know that that'll fit in our budget, or we've got this really big project, work as many hours as you want to get this done. Everybody makes their own schedule, and all I ask is that on Sunday they let me know when they're going to be in so that I can plan things out.
When they're going to be in for that entire week.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That's nice.
So that's been really nice because I think everybody feels like they have control over their schedule. So even the little things like putting the damn water bottle back that I micromanage,
which by the way we found under Rebecca's
under my apron.
So
where we had both looked several times.
Yes.
Just in the right spot to hide from you.
Yes.
It took us an hour to find it.
Yeah. And only one meltdown.
Only one.
And I appreciated that you said that wasn't a meltdown.
Nah.
I'm sorry, I just melted down and you were like, that wasn't really that much of a meltdown.
I've seen worse.
Mackenzie was like, oh shit, we're gonna die. We're all in trouble. Mom's mad.
I think maybe because my mom got like so much madder than that on a daily basis when I was growing up, like just because we were dumb kids. And so I think that maybe my tolerance for that kind of stuff is a little higher. Or maybe it's not really that high, but I recognize that I'm like, yeah, it was fine.
But the level for an introvert,
it was fun.
Mackenzie was like, man,
And Mackenzie's
Rebecca,
she's a super introvert. Like,
Yeah.
she's like good luck trying to even talk to her. She's so quiet. She's amazing.
She's so quiet. But when she talks, when she finally does, she's entertaining as hell.
Oh yes,
She's got a
she's
great
hilarious.
sense of humor.
Super funny.
Yeah.
My whole goal the entire trip was to make Mackenzie laugh.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah. And it's a noble goal.
I thought it was.
We're such a great crew. I love it.
Yeah, no, it is great. It's fun, and yeah, I enjoyed being there for a little bit.
We liked having you. Someday
make
you'll
it
just
a
come
yearly
be here.
thing, maybe.
Yes,
now.
from January to December.
They want
Move
me to
over to
come.
the Midwest.
She wants me to come and work for them.
Hey, we brought Dusty from Montana. We can bring you from Washington.
Gotta make you an offer you can't refuse.
Well, if the shop goes under during the coronavirus, you're mine.
Well, come on over.
Yeah.
You could come make Plague Doctor mugs with me.
Maybe that's why I'm on a throwing fast, because like I'm subconsciously sabotaging.
You're just getting ready for all the throwing you're going.
Getting ready. Yeah.
So I don't know how much time we have you for, but I have a couple questions that might bookend if we want to wrap it up.
Sure.
I wanted to know, these are going to sound very similar, but what is a successful day for you in your studio?
Ooh. I guess it depends on what I'm supposed to be working on, but a successful day for me in the studio is to get everybody working and productive, and then sit down at the wheel and get maybe 3 or 4 hours of throwing in. And when I leave at the end of the day, all of the kilns are firing.
How often does that happen?
Usually once or twice a week when the whole crew is here.
Nice. Just when like you feel like everything you've done all of your prep work, like whether it's Sunday, I guess, with prepping what you needed to do, and you're like, okay, I planned this week out really well, and then stuff just happens on autopilot, and you're just kind of everybody knows what they're doing.
That's a good week. 9 times out of 10, my day will get hijacked by something completely stupid and out of my control, which is why it's so wonderful to have a team that just is running and doing their stuff.
So you can get called away and put out a fire or smolder or something before it gets to a fire. And then my second one, which sounds very similar, what is a successful day for you in the business?
Oh, a successful day for me in the business is getting orders out the door and getting lots of things made and leaving at the end of the day with all of the kilns running. It always ends. Do you see that? It always ends with leaving the day with all of the kilns running.
Does that just give you a good feeling in the morning when you're like, okay, we're cooled down, or we're mostly cooled down, and we're like ready to move on to the next step?
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Because I know if
super satisfying.
We've got a couple of bisque kilns running and 3 or 4 glaze kilns running, then we'll have product to glaze and get out the next week. We're going to have product to get out now. Everybody will keep moving forward. Like, it's just that for me is the signifier of a day well done.
And your husband helps a lot with the packing and shipping, and you're doing mostly packing and shipping right now, right? With those plague doctors and stuff like that.
Yep, we are doing a lot of packing and shipping. Yeah, Chris started out with I'll help you for a couple of hours a week. And the last 6 months he's been doing about 25-30 hours a week packing and shipping. And now that he's not working at the moment, he's just waiting for another project to come in. His day job is as an architectural engineer. He's between projects. So he's working for me full time. He's been here as many hours as I have. We're actually coming to work together.
Aww.
So do you all work? So you all typically work when he's not doing his day job? Are you in the studio together in the evenings and stuff like that while he's packing and stuff? Or is it just kind of like whatever he wants to?
No, we're usually in together. But as big as the space is, he's up at the front and I'm usually at the back. So we're not we're in the same building, but we're not really together. And he's also a hardcore introvert and has his earbuds in. So conversation is not a thing.
Nope.
There's something satisfying about just having a task that you know needs to get done, and you just like repetitively do the thing, whether it's throwing, packing boxes. Like maybe Chris loves the packing process. Maybe other people hate it. Like Becca probably hates the packing. Maybe, I don't know. But like,
I hate a lot of things.
That continual repetitive thing that you're like, I know what I need to do. I can kind of autopilot here and just get through it.
And I think one of the things he likes about packing is his day job is all computer. So he's actually getting to see the fruits of his labor at the end of a day. You know, he's leaving and there's two carts full of finished boxes.
I love that.
Yeah. And everybody on our team likes to see a whole bunch of the same thing lined up on a shelf. Like we all totally get off on that. And I think that takes a special kind of craftsperson.
I have that.
Yeah. That's not the thing for everybody. And I've gotten them all to do things in a grid. So it's like there's 9 bowls on that board. There's 25 mugs on that board. There's 6 bowls on that board. And you could just kind of walk by and go, "Ooh, there's 8 boards of 25. This is a good day."
Plus, you can count them off so easily when you're like finishing up the day and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, there's something satisfying about that. I don't know if that's like the production potters in us that like to see that, or if, I mean, some people might be like, I don't want to see anything that looks like all of them all the same. But.
Right. And I've worked with production potters too, who like the idea of making a whole bunch of the same thing, but they won't put them in a grid or in a line on boards. Like it's all willy-nilly.
How do you do that?
You're wasting so much space.
Right?
I'm actually a little bit offended.
Losing my mind. I want to move all of your pots into a grid. Please just step aside.
That's so dumb. Like it's the most satisfying feeling in the entire world when you can fit like all of your boards up on the shelf and you're like, there they are. That is 59 pots. And then you have one. And I always like when I have all of them in a grid, I'll like put them all on boards because I can fit 9 mugs on a board, right? Mm-hmm. On bats. And I'll set them all on the table, and I always have one extra, and I just leave it to the side. I just I might throw it away.
Leave it on your wheel, and they're like, "That's the day."
No, usually what'll happen is I make exactly the right amount to fill the boards, and I put them all on the shelves, and somehow I'll like bump one with my elbow, or I'll tip a shelf and knock one off, and then there's just one empty space on the last board.
Oh, really? You don't throw another one just to fill that space?
No, because I probably cleaned my wheel up already.
Oh.
You know what's so funny is that, like, I have been doing that for such a long time, like grids like that for such a long time, that I literally, all of the pieces that are just one-offs, I finally, in this last cleaning section, I just threw them all away. None of them were bisqued. None of them were, like, made. Like,
you just couldn't even bring yourself to fire them?
No, if they weren't in an order, I just left them. And I finally was just like, you know what? I should throw these away. And people are like, no, you can't. And that's why the Paint-A-Pot has been so good for me, because if it is bisqued, I'll just throw it in Paint-A-Pot so it, like, gets hidden.
There you go. Mm-hmm. Somebody else could deal with it.
Yes. So I totally get that. I 100%.
So is that because you, like, let's say you throw 2 boards of mugs because they kind of associate as a group, that they're all together? So if there's a one-off that doesn't really fit with the 30 that you made it with, it feels isolated and it doesn't really relate to all your work when it's finished? Is that kind of the...
Yep.
Kill the ugly duckling.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's like it wandered away from its family. We don't know where this is at.
One of us.
We throw families of pots, not orphans.
That's right.
Yeah, I have the same issues, Becca. I've got a couple of oddball pots around here that seemed like a good idea at the time, but I probably will never fire them because they don't match anything.
I know, it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. Oh well. Well, I recommend going through and just tossing it all. It's great. It feels great.
I believe you. I think I'm going to take you up on that.
Crushed a bunch of seconds in the last couple months. It felt pretty good.
Yeah, also if you can get an audience, like I have the restaurant next door, and I've taken full boards out and just tipped them, and then just they fell into the trash. And then all the guys are smoking next door because they're at the restaurant, and they're like, "What are you doing?"
They didn't make the cut.
And I was like, they weren't good enough. And he was like, "Are you serious?"
Yeah. Yep.
It's the best.
Wow.
Yeah, it definitely does not feel bad.
Mm-mm. I don't even feel like I wasted my time either.
Mm-mm. No.
Just like that's part of the process. That's part of what your price is on the items, I guess, that there's going to be some loss and breakage.
Absolutely.
Or throwing stuff in the dumpster.
Dumpster's my best friend.
Dumpster.
Do we have any more questions?
Becca, I want you to end it with something. What do you have? What's a final question you have for her? Because I wrote some questions up and sent them to you today. I don't know if you looked at them. It's basically everything I asked her. So
I didn't look at them at all. My final question is, if you are comfy, what is your did you meet your financial goals last year, and what are your financial goals for next year? You don't have to say per se, but like,
right,
are you on track, I guess?
Yeah. So last year I had an expectation of what I wanted to make for the year, and we hit a bunch of roadblocks throughout the year, just stuff that was out of our control. And we still managed, when I did the final tally, we were $900 above what I wanted to make.
That's good.
This year we're actually about, even with how everything's kind of died down the last couple of weeks, we're still about 10% above where I thought we would be at this point in the year.
Nice.
Yeah, probably a little more. We're probably close to 15% above what I thought we would be.
And do you write your goals for the year at the beginning of the year?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I usually write them between Christmas and New Year's, or that first week of January. And I started out by figuring out what I did each month of the previous year, and then what percent of total each of those months is. So like one month might be 4% of the total, one month might be 12% of the total, whatever. And then I'll be like,
use that month as a benchmark for 2020. Like,
right.
Okay. Interesting.
Right. So then I'll say, like, I want to do another $100,000 more this year than I did last year, because now we're in a bigger space. We have more people working for us. We need to go after more business. How much business do I need to have each month? Well, now I know kind of an average of what percentage to total the previous year was.
Right.
So
if last year, okay, we're going to put into even numbers for people that didn't understand that. So if last year was $100,000 and next year you want to double that, say $200,000.
Yep.
And January was $5,000. That is, no, we'll say $20,000 because it's a lot easier.
Because it's easier.
Yeah, $20,000 of 100,000 is
20%.
20%. So,
so 20% of 200,000 for this year would be 40,000. Yep.
So and then you would have a different percentage for February. Let's say you did a shitty February last year, and it was 10%. Then you would want to make $20,000 for February.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what that does for me is that kind of gives me an idea of what business to go after. Mm-hmm. So if it's a 4% month, it's going to be easier for marketing. So I have the option of just let it be easier for marketing and focus on other things, or do we go after something bigger for that month and try and beef it up and get a little bit ahead? But it'll also be like, if I want to do $20,000 in May, let's say, what would I sell that would add up to $20,000?
Right.
Yeah.
And then I can figure out how many mugs that is, or how many bowls that is, or, Ryan's really good at throwing this thing. If we sold X amount of that, and Dusty's really good at throwing this thing, and we sold X amount of that, and then I can throw this, and Mackenzie can hand build this. What grouping of things do we need to make and sell to get to that price? And once we kind of have that idea, then I can start marketing those items.
Are you doing all of that math and prioritizing on your side solo, or do you talk with a business person or something that helps you with planning out your year and your dollar side of it to meet those goals?
I usually do all of that, but that business projection is part of what I used to do when I was in the corporate retail world.
Okay.
So I have that already as part of my vocabulary. But I'm also part of an all-female mastermind group of just these badass women who all have their own businesses. And so once I come up with my plan for the year, I'll usually run it by that group. So generally what they'll do is challenge me to raise my numbers, or give me ideas on how I could market something better or easier. Or like one of them's a system specialist. So she'll be like, oh, well, if you systemize this part of your day, that would give you an extra 4 hours a week, and you could spend that 4 hours a week making mugs, then you could make this much more in a month. So they've been really awesome at helping me kind of tweak that once I've got it analyzed, and then I'll take it to the team and show it to them and see if that sounds realistic for what they can do. And they're usually like, I give them the numbers and then they go, oh my gosh, the pressure. And then I show them what we did the previous year and how many I know they can do in an hour. And then they're all like, oh, well, that's easy. You know, you get the Mackenzie shoulder shrug, and she's like, oh, okay.
So you're sharing with them like a month at a time?
No, I'll usually.
Or you're saying we're going to make like.
This is what we're going to do this year.
These things. Oh, for the year. Wow.
Yeah. I'll usually in January, we'll all sit down and I'll show them what we're going to do for the year. And then once a month we have a team meeting and be like, okay, we're going to course correct this, or we're going to change this, or this thing came in that we weren't anticipating. So this is how we're going to change it to still get to that same number or better.
And then you've got things that come up like your fair wholesale. Like you don't know when those wholesale orders are going to come. So
right.
Do you, I mean, it seems like in your process now, you're reacting to orders, right? A lot of your stuff is made to order.
Right.
So you're not making in anticipation of this thing that is going to come.
Correct. Most of the stuff is made to order. And like on fair wholesale, I have it noted on there that it takes 8 to 12 weeks for me to make an order.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Sometimes it does. Because, you know, we're just that busy. Sometimes it doesn't. That's okay. But I do know from previous years, like what percentage of my business is that type of wholesale. Like it's usually about 8% of my total business.
Wow.
Nice question to end it on, Becca. I like that.
Thanks.
Good job, Becca.
I can pull through.
You planned that.
I need to. I did
just
not.
Circle back to the beginning. She's the smart one.
Right?
Exactly.
4, 3, 4, 5.
2.
That's how you got the 5 lines pottery. That's how you're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we're good.
That's right. Okay. Well, thanks. Thanks for talking.
Yeah, thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate the time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Okay. We'll say bye, but don't go anywhere.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to another episode of Wheel Talk. If you'd like to follow us on Instagram, you could find the podcast at wheeltalkpodcast, or you could find myself at RD Ceramics. That's R's in Ryan, D's in Durban, Ceramics.
Or you can find me at 5 Lines Pottery Studio. That's the number 5. And don't forget, share this with your friends, like us on Instagram, and don't forget to write a review. It helps us an awful lot. Thanks.